Ron Cougler is our guest today, and Ron has published a book, and it talks about being an entrepreneur. Now, Ron's background in business and on the front lines of education make him absolutely the right guy to author the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook. And we say welcome to Ron. Ron, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I'd like to start our conversation by talking about why you produced this handbook.
I guess this is something that I've been thinking about for several years because of my background in teaching and working in the business field for the total of about 50 years. Tells you how old I might be at this point when I throw those numbers out. Mainly it's because I had a real passion for entrepreneurs. I had my own accounting business on the side when I was teaching, and I loved that. More than that, I think I like talking to individual people who had a vision or an idea and they want to run with it, and what kind of help can we give them to do that kind of a thing. As I wrote the book, and I thought it turned out to be a lot thicker than I thought, and that's okay because there's a lot of information in there, but hopefully it'll be just maybe it's sort of like a one-stop shopping center, Mike, for entrepreneurs, is to help them so they can pick chapter 7 that talks about customer service, so they can look at another chapter where they might need help. So I just thought it was important, and I thought this is a Canadian book, and I'm very excited about that, particularly at this time in our political history kind of thing. But I think it's important for us to really help small people that start a small business.
And what will people find in the book? You mentioned that there are different sections, but there's more to it than that.
Absolutely, and there are 3 main parts. I put this specifically on the cover of the book because I wanted people to know the theory itself is, you can glean that from a lot of sources, Mike, you really can. The part that I loved doing were the 30 interviews that I interviewed with small people across Canada. I literally had some in BC and Manitoba and Ontario, and so I loved that, just talking to them. I asked them all 10 questions they were all pretty much the same about how they do things in their business. And so I'm really excited for new entrepreneurs to read those stories, to see what people have done that have gone before them. And the second part that I really like is the 30 how-tos. How to adopt artificial intelligence is one of the key points in there. How to make decisions, how to market your work, how to work on customer service. So those particular sections, the 30 stories, success stories, and the 30 how-tos, I think are what makes the book come alive, I hope, for everybody.
Well, the topics that you cover are in excess of 20 in total. And it's kind of like taking a crash course at college or university. Would someone like myself or a young entrepreneur understand it?
Well, I hope so, because I hope that my teaching has helped in that regard. And so when you're doing that, I did that for 30 years, and I loved it from the day I started until the day I finished. The thing about teaching is how to reach different levels of ability. And so I think I've tried to bring that kind of expertise into the book itself so that people, I don't think they'll be baffled by the jargon. I hope I've kept it in simple, readable terms. And in an instructive way, I guess. I hope that it's easy for them to read and to follow and try to get something that's really going to help them with their business.
You mentioned in this updated version of the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook that you deal with artificial intelligence. What is the business world saying about AI these days?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that because I was just doing some reading before our session this morning, and one of the stats that I found is that 80% of businesses are now adopting and adapting artificial intelligence as part of their operations. That's extremely huge. I was talking to somebody not so long ago, one of the lectures I was giving about artificial intelligence, and so the point I was making is that this is like a new wave. We had certain waves in our past history, past 100 years. Telephone being a good example, the smartphone being a good example, printing, those kinds of things. Artificial intelligence is changing the world as we know it, and I think a lot of people haven't necessarily tuned into that yet. I think they may have a briefly, sort of an overall idea of what it's doing, but it's impacting us in so many ways. But that number of 80% businesses, if you go onto the web, you'll see that that's happening already. You'll get all kinds of sites that will talk about artificial intelligence and chatbots. And so it's important for us to go down there and see what this is all about. It is really changing our world as we know it.
Now, they talk about in business and other fields about leveling the playing field, so to speak.
Yes.
And I wonder if AI will help to do some of that for the smaller business or entrepreneur.
Absolutely, it's a key phrase, and so I was looking at that again this morning, and here are a couple of examples how you can do that. You may have gone into a site, and it'll say to you, "Would you like to chat to somebody?" Now, the theory behind that is that these are called chatbots, and so it usually appears on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. What I found by using the chats is that to a certain extent, they work pretty well. For a small business, they can do a lot of things that they don't necessarily have time for in the small business world. For example, you can make an appointment. So a couple of days ago, my wife convinced me it was time to get a haircut. So on a simpler plane, so I go into my site on that, and I can book an appointment with Marty, my guy, and I simply put in the time in there and the date, and we're all set to go. He doesn't have to do that. So that's a small example, but if you take that and you extrapolate that idea into what else can I do for small businesses to save time and to save money, then that's a pretty exciting concept. Another quick example for you would be how to improve your cash flow. So you go into something like AI, one of the programs, and you say, "I'm not sure about my cash flow. Can you help?" So doing that, and then I think people will be amazed at what kind of information comes back to actually give them some advice. And so I think that's pretty something that small entrepreneurs really need to be aware of and need to embrace and work with in today's business world.
What I hear you saying is that AI very well could help small businesses make better business decisions.
Absolutely. And so that alone is worthwhile exploring, I think. And so if it can say to you, let's say you have a question about inventory management. One of the things that I know my son Kevin has done with his business, a STEM camp operation, is he did something where he wanted to automate something that was taking him about 40 hours a week. He went into an artificial AI program, and he said he cut his time down, so it was down to about an hour. I think that 40 went down to an hour. So that's from a small business person who most of them work more than 40 hours a week. If you can say to that person, "Listen, how would you like to not work 60 hours that you're probably doing? How can we cut that extra 20 hours down using AI?" If I were a small business owner, I'd say, "Tell me how. Let me get started and let me do that kind of a thing." So I think it's really important for us to understand the implications of the whole process.
It's funny, I was thinking about that the other day. My wife and I ordered Chinese food for supper.
Yes.
And I was thinking how busy this small business is. You know,
Yep.
the person on the counter is helping with the cooking. There's one or two people in the kitchen, and they're going at a breakneck speed. How
Yes.
nice it would be if they didn't have to answer the phone. That
Yes.
if I just went on and said, "Okay, here's your menu. This is what I'd like, and
Mhm.
can I get it at this time?" That would save them all sorts of effort and hopefully make them more efficient.
Absolutely. So here's an example to follow up on that Chinese meal is that to say that when that order goes in there and that comes up in the Chinese restaurant, wherever they take their orders online kind of thing. And let's say as soon as that comes in, there's a profile about you and Jane. So it comes up and it says, "Oh, it's Mike. Here's what he's ordered in the past few times. I wonder if he's going to do that again this time." In which case, we'll put the order in and he's all set to go. He doesn't even have to tell us because we know what he likes. He orders the same thing every time he has Chinese food. And so that eliminates a lot of conversation, and if you're happy with that, bing bada boom. Having said that, at the same time, you can still adapt and change your order slightly kind of thing, but it will remember. It will say to yourself, "Gee, the first 3 times Mike did this, the last time he changed this. He ordered some wontons. And so I wonder if he wants those this time," kind of thing. So that personalized change in your profile from a customer service perspective is going to make a huge impact on small business operations.
It's really quite incredible, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
efficiency, decision making, information retrieving.
Yes.
It's a little bit mind boggling. And I'm equally as mind boggling are the options that are out there. Let's talk a little bit about software. Like, what
Yes.
would be a good choice for a small entrepreneurial business?
I thought about that one as well this morning. And my I'm not sure I should be promoting different companies kind of thing, but I have to do it anyway because that's my experience. But the one out there that's the leader as far as I'm concerned, and what I'm doing and working with is ChatGPT. It's been out there for years, and I think it's the leader. There's a second one called Claude, Claude. There's a third one that if you're a Microsoft user, you'll see called Copilot. There are actually tons of others. Those are to my mind, those are the big three that are operating right now. Let me just give you a specific example. I typed the question in for ChatGPT and it gave me an answer. And then I went to Claude, which is another AI provider, and I asked the same question. It gave me similar answers, but it actually broke it into two different groupings for me. And I thought, well, gee, that's kind of nice. Why didn't ChatGPT do that? Or thinking about doing that? So I think response on, if the question is which one do we do, I think the answer is play with them. Do something like I did. Do a ChatGPT, do Copilot, and do Claude, and check and see which one you think works for you. It feels comfortable with where you're coming from.
So what would be a good question to ask ChatGPT? I'm an entrepreneur in a business. What's the sort of question I might ask?
Yeah, here, let me give you a specific example. I'm writing a set of educational material, which I hope to have out one of these days. It has to do with grade 11 entrepreneurial studies course. And so I'm writing a student workbook for that. And so here's an example of a question I put to the chat GPT. And I said, you know, there's a young fellow that's 16 years old, and he's going to start a business on Saturday morning helping young children code, do programming for computers. Can you write a case study, a 2-page case study in the language of 16-year-old students to help me get that person started on his business? Having sent that in, I think I didn't time it exactly, Mike. I think it was about 10 seconds. It came back with a 2-page case study. You know, and I thought, my goodness, that would have taken me 2 hours at least.
Wow.
And I'm an experienced teacher. I've had 30 years in the profession. And so now, having said that, I have to look at that now and I have to decide, is that what I want to do? And usually I make changes. It's just the way the programs work because it's extracting from large language modules. And so I had to do a little bit, but still in all, when I come to the end line kind of thing, I've got a wonderful piece of work to work with, a document to work with that's going to really work well in the classroom, I think.
Yeah, that saves all sorts of development time, allows you to do the refining and end up with something that you're very happy with.
Yeah. And as I say, I said, with all my experience to do something like that, and I've written other books as well, kind of thing, but that time saving is phenomenal. It really is for our world, and our world is not really shrinking. I guess it's more expanding our world to say, wow, look at the stuff we can do with this new software.
So I'm a small business person, an entrepreneur, and I'm going to buy your book, and I'm hoping that in the book you give me some idea how I might start. How do I start? How do I start to learn about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, well, I think maybe when I started the book, I put the first chapter in. It's not really theory. It's more having to do with the background of entrepreneurship and innovation in Canada. And so I think there is advice in there throughout the book as to how you can sort of take AI and solve a problem. So, for example, the chapter on customer service. And to me, that's a really critical part of the book. I love that chapter because we're out experiencing customer service, good or bad, every day. And so I think there's some good information in there about how you can take that. And if that's really as essential to your business as I think it is, I think you'll find some help in there to help you deal with that. We've had Elaine and I have been out, we're out almost every day of the week doing different things, but we get different impressions about customer service there are some places I can tell you it's been fabulous. There are some other places I can say to you, you know, I think I've got some ideas for if you want to listen to me about how to improve that customer service. So I think there's some tips in there that will help people deal. And as I say, out of the 20 chapters, if that's an issue for your business, you can just look at that and say, wow, if I get some help from that, then that's really going to be worthwhile for the cost of the book itself. At least that's my hope.
So the question pops up, did you use AI to write the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook?
Yes, I did. I didn't say, can you write a book for me that's 340 pages? So that's not going to happen. What I did, an example of what I did is there's a chapter in there about forms of ownership, and I've dealt with this over the years in business and in teaching. And so what I did is I said to it, can you remind me about the 4 or 5 forms of business that are out there so I can develop some material about that? So he came back right away and said, well, here they are. It's partnership and proprietorship and corporation, not-for-profit, and so on. So then once I do that, it's taken the grunt work out of the book for me. And then I can say, oh, partnership. I know about partnership, what I want to say about that. And then I can sit down on my computer and I can type and say, here are the thoughts I have about partnership, kind of thing. So that I used that several times as I was writing the book. We launched it back in June last year, and so I'd like to think I was a little bit early getting some AI stuff, helping me out with the book. There are a whole other set of questions about this, about stealing authors' work, and so that's a downside of AI. We have to be careful, but I don't like to dwell on that because I really like the positive aspect of the software and what it's going to do for our lives.
I'm getting the sense from our conversation that you think it's pretty important for entrepreneurs to, if they haven't started, begin reading about AI and finding a way to embrace it.
Absolutely, and I would not use the phrase pretty important. I would say it's essential. If you're really going to do well in today's business world and the community, and we're really talking a global market here, it really is essential that you understand a little bit about it. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you have to, I think you have to, as a business owner, say, show me a little bit about this AI and tell me what it's going to do for my business. So the reason I'm doing the interview with you again today is because, first of all, I enjoy talking to you as well about business. But secondly, I hope this will be the beginning of some monthly interviews I can have with small business people to say, tell me about a problem you're having with your business. Let's you and I explore that. We'll go into the chat GPT or Claude or Copilot or whatever. Let's explore that and see what we can do to help you with that and make it easier for you and more cost efficient to go down a certain road that's going to help your business. So I think that's a pretty exciting goal, and I'm anxious to embrace that, to be honest.
I think one of the important second parts to the entrepreneurial handbook is your website. And
Yes.
please tell people about your website, because there's also an opportunity for people to be able to stay in touch with what you're thinking as time goes by.
Absolutely, and I just hired a new website designer about a month ago, I guess, and she's a lady that I came to appreciate. She's done a really good job on the website, and now more than just selling books, we can sell books, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons you do this, I guess. More than that, if I can make that website a dialogue, a monthly dialogue, and so that people can go in there and they can find all kinds of resources, a lot of those will be free. I don't really need to charge for those, I don't think, Mike. More than that, if I can, so let's say if I take a couple of my how-tos and make sure people have read them and they understand, they're only a page long. So those are meant to be read by people who are very, very busy. Now we're talking small business people. Where do I fit, if I'm working 60 hours a week, where do I find time to look at something for 15 or 20 minutes that's really going to help my business? So I hope the website is going to be an answer to that, and it's going to be, I'm not sure how active we'll make that. I'm hoping to do that through the podcast, the kinds of thing that we're doing this morning, kind of thing, the interview sessions. And so it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds in the next few months and how that could work for small business people.
And what is your website?
Oh, yes, that's a good point. It's https //tueh.ca. I tried to make it, I didn't want people typing in the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook. They'd never reach me. And so I did this https //tueh, the initials from the title, .ca. So that makes it very easy to find us, I hope.
tueh.ca.
The first letter of each of the names.
You can't go wrong with that, can you?
I'm hoping not, since we spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Is that the best place for people to be able to order a copy of your book as well?
I think that's probably the best place, and there's an order form in there. Like other sites, you can do it online, Mike, and you can simply order. We'll ship that out to you anywhere in Canada, kind of thing, and then have that available to you. So yeah, we've got a good system going.
What really excites me about our conversation today is that from the original handbook, less than a year ago, it has now grown, and we have this new content, including artificial intelligence. And I see it as a really living document, one that's growing and changing with time. And as you reach out to provide that dialogue with small business people, entrepreneurs, it really strikes me as a safe place to go for people to get some good advice, some starter advice in starting to deal with the issues they're facing. And let's face it, small business people are really up against the wall in so many ways these days. This
Yes.
sort of thing has got to be an important spot for them.
Yeah, I think it is. And so one of the things I think is happening because of the political situation we're in right now, and in terms of the impact on the business world, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more people wanting to be entrepreneurs. And so I think the book is timely from that perspective. I encourage that. In an earlier conversation you and I had, we talked about the impact of small businesses in this country. The jobs are not created with big companies like General Motors and those kinds of operations. They're in the small business sector. They're in the mom and pop operations. People start out with one idea, and maybe the husband and the wife or the family are involved. And I think what's going to happen with this Canadian nationalism that's coming up right now, the new intertrade that we're trying to develop between provinces, kind of thing, I think we're getting a real focus that's going to be I think it's going to be really positive for entrepreneurs that want to start in this particular in 2025 and beyond, kind of thing. So I think from that point of view, I hope the book is helpful in that regard, because I'm excited about helping those people. It's not easy, and there are negative sides to it as well, kind of thing. But I like to think positively and think, let's help them out. What can we do?
Ron, thanks for chatting with me today. I look forward to our next conversation because I get the feeling this is like a rolling wheel, that there's going to be new tread added as
Yes.
we go along. But I do appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for the conversation.
It's my pleasure, Mike. And if we can do this again, I'll be more than delighted. I appreciate your contribution to what we're trying to do to help small business. So that's really, it's a nice feeling for me to do that. That's all I ask. That's great. What a pleasure.
Ron Cougler is the author of the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook. If you're an entrepreneur or thinking about your own small business, this could be an important companion for you. And don't forget, the website is tueh.ca, the Ultimate Entrepreneur's Handbook. It's got to be by your bedside.
Thank you, Mike. See you again next time.
Look forward to it. Bye, Ron.
All righty. Bye-bye.